Jr. at the fans. Yes, the answer is yes. We're back. Some things are new. And slightly blue. A lot of white and red. For the new driver, the 14. Some things are new, like the make of car. For Kevin Harvick, some things are new, like a lot of the rules. Some things are fast, like Rowdy. And some things are 7-time champions. And Jimmy Johnson of that mix. It's all new. It's a brand new year. It's Daytona 500 qualifying practice presented by Chevrolet. So much is new. We've only got a 4-hour practice session to explain it all.
We're going to explain it.
With Hall of Famer Darrell Waltrip, Hall of Famer to be Jeff Gordon. I'm just Mike Joy, but I'm thrilled to be here. Guys, this is my 42nd Speed Week. It's probably about your 45th. You've been coming down here a long time. I don't think we've ever seen such a season of change as this one.
No, I mean, from the format, the breaking the races up into sections the way they're doing it, and the manufacturer changes with Stewart-Haas and sponsors, with the Martin Truex got a new sponsor. There's just a lot of things going on right now. The rules for the cars are pretty much the same as they have been. A little bit of a change in restrictor plate, but it looks like the speeds are right back where they were last year.
And that's what doesn't change. Everybody comes in here, tries to go in this pre-qualifying practice as fast as they possibly can.
Well, that's what I love about this time of year. Everything that's gone on over the offseason and prepared hundreds of hours of preparation to get this car out on track and make it go as fast as you possibly can, whether it be the engines, the aerodynamics, the mechanics of it. And this is going to be, a lot of fun to see whose hard work is going to pay off tomorrow in qualifying.
Fluff and buff.
So we'll see a lot of what's new and some of what's the same. Here is what we're working toward tomorrow, qualifying for the Daytona 500. It's pole position qualifying, and with the new charter system that went into effect a year ago, the 36 chartered teams, and there are some changes among those teams, they're guaranteed to start in the 500. There are 4 open spots for other non-chartered teams. The fastest 2 drivers in pole qualifying, they've won the front row. They get bragging rights for a week. The highest finishing open team in each of the Can-Am dual races earns a starting spot, and the final 2 spots in the field will be given to open times based on their pole qualifying speeds. So as you can see, it's all about speed. Down to the garage, Jamie Little.
Well, Mike Joy, he is back after almost 7 months away from racing. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is ready to climb on board the 88 and go out there and focus on competition. Sure, he's been in 2 tests in December and January, but that was just shaking things down, getting ready to get back in the car. But he is at Daytona, and I have to say, I watched him make the walk through the garage. He didn't stop smiling, and fellow drivers walking up, shaking his hand. You see his crew chief, Greg Ives, there talking and smiling. They're so happy to have their guy back. Now, Junior, he just has to wait. Greg Ives told me that they ran out of time yesterday to get their car through inspection, so they had to go through this morning, and you can see the team is working on everything. The driver comforts on the driver's side, of course, and they're working on just getting the details and the decals put on the race car. So Dale Jr., he is chomping at the bit and ready to get back on board. Matt Yoakum?
Jamie, it's a comeback weekend for Dale Earnhardt Jr., but it's a coming-out party for Stewart-Haas Racing, switching from Chevrolet over to the Ford brand. And Kevin Harvick told me from their meetings a couple weeks ago at the Henry Ford, their personal guided tour by Edsel Ford's son Henry, Raj Nair, all the executives. It's infectious, their enthusiasm for Stewart-Haas Racing coming over to the Ford brand. And SHR has put so much into this move, so much in the offseason as far as hiring new personnel, 85 new employees. They've added a chassis, in-house development program, and it's all coming to fruition here at Daytona. And as Edsel Ford said, racing and winning, it's in our DNA, and SHR would love to do what Henry Ford did so many years ago, win in their first race in a Ford. Mike?
Thanks, Matt. A lot of new faces, and one is behind the wheel of the number 19, Xfinity Series champ Daniel Suarez from Monterrey, Mexico. is the full-time driver of this car last year after Carl Edwards unexpectedly stepped away from the sport. A move that he discussed with his team owner Joe Gibbs in late December. It was announced to the public mid-January. Don't call it a retirement, Edwards says. Don't use the R word. And he will be at selected tracks to help Daniel Suarez acclimate to what is now the Monster Cup NASCAR Series. But I think of all of the off-season changes, this one was the shocker.
This is a big one. And for any fans out there that think, well, Daniel Suarez is not ready for this. Yes, he is. He won the Xfinity Championship last year. Now, a lot of times you think, well, maybe somebody like Chase Elliott. We've seen other drivers where they do 2 years of Xfinity. But this kid's ready. He's got a lot of momentum. He's got a lot of confidence right now, and he's coming into one of the best teams with a great opportunity. And not only does he have great teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing, he gets Carl Edwards to tap into to help him get along.
Yeah, I was very impressed with him last night. His track presence. He was out there drafting with his teammates. He knew when they made a move, he didn't panic. He knew exactly where to go. He knew where he was supposed to go, where he was supposed to be. I was very impressed with the way he handled himself last night in the draft.
Here's another fella he'll get to lean on, the defending champion of the Clash and the Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin in the squeaker of squeakers. Closest timed finish closest margin of victory in Daytona history.
You want to know how you win the Daytona 500? That's it right there. Get a big shot for Kevin Harvick and take that momentum to the front, even if it means moving your teammate out of the way.
Mark Truex side drafted off him once, twice, had the lead 100 feet from the line, but by inches. Wow. Denny Hamlin.
500 miles, it comes down to inches.
Those closing laps of that race were so intense.
They really were. The move that Hamlin made on Matt Kenseth up there in the middle of 3 and 4 to get under him and get Matt loose, that was an incredible job by Denny Hamlin.
I totally agree, DW. Not only to get the momentum, get the push from Kevin Harvick and take that momentum, but to be able to move that car, maneuver it, make such an aggressive move in the middle of the corner, to go 3 wide in the middle and the car to stick the way it did, I was so impressed.
I think he had better tires than the other guys, and that allowed him. That's one of the things we talk about all the time. Tires may not make a difference in performance, but it sure does make a difference when you want to make a bold move like that because you got the grip.
Hamlin coasting in to debrief with his crew chief. Let's do a little debrief with ours. Larry McReynolds.
Mike, I heard you talking about how many years you've been coming to Speed Weeks. This is my 37th season, and one thing that's not changed, these first laps on the racetrack with your Daytona 500 car, they can be the most anticipated lap you'll run all year. It's like Jeff Andrews over the Hendrick Engine Group told me. He said he had a meeting with his guys earlier and said, guys, for years we came down here and tested during the winter. We kind of knew where we stacked up. But he said, I promise you, we'll all be on pins and needles when those cars go out there and run those first laps today. We'll know if all of our hard work during the month of November, December, January, and February has truly paid off.
That's a great point, Larry. No preseason practice. So here are practice times so far. 6 cars have been on track and logged laps.
Mike, to follow up just a little bit on what Larry said, even the guys back at the shop, they are watching everything that happens here this morning because they have worked on these cars all winter long. And as I said earlier, they fluffed and buffed. They've detailed them out. The engine guys are tuned to perfection. Everything about that car is as good as everybody on that team can make it. And everybody's got an interest in how this thing's going to run when it hits the racetrack.
We heard several drivers last night in Clash practice, and the Clash will be on FS1 this evening. That'll be the first checkered flag of the NASCAR portion of Speed Week 17. And they were talking about how, well, the steering wheel's not in quite the right position. The digital dash doesn't display exactly what I want. My feet aren't comfortable. There's that whole acclimation process. New pair of shoes here.
Yeah, and you can actually hear the side skirts on this car, Kevin Harvick, hitting the racetrack, and that's a part of this process today. Not only is the driver getting acclimated to what's inside the cockpit, but these crew chiefs and engineers are all about heights, getting that car down, sealed to the racetrack, get as much air to flow of that car as slick as possible to get the car up to speed. And that means there's going to be moments on the track in the corner where it's going to compress into the racetrack and actually hit those side skirts, and it's about getting it just right.
Yeah, Mike, I think about distractions. The driver doesn't want to be distracted, but he wants to focus. He wants to hold that steering wheel as steady as he possibly can. Every movement in that wheel can slow the car down a little bit. So no distractions. Wheel where I want it, pedals where I want it, gauges, the screen on the computer, everything right where I want it. So I just have it's second nature to me.
Always like a shot like this where you actually see the shifter knob. That tells you a lot about where your drive line, the drive shaft, and how the car, the vibrations that go on throughout the entire drive line of the race car while you're out there on the track like this. And so a lot of times the driver will actually put their hand over on that shifter knob to kind of feel, how is everything aligned there, and is that costing us speed? And I would say that's a pretty normal vibration right there. Sometimes we'll see a lot more severe than that.
Yeah, driver shots to me are fascinating. I always like to see how they hold the wheel. How much are they turning that steering wheel? That tells you if that car's too tight, tells you if that car's a little bit loose, and you want to hold that thing as steady as you can, because any movement in that steering wheel can slow the car down.
And we saw right here with Austin Dillon. I mean, he looks really nice and smooth. But see him flipping some switches over there. Be curious to know what some of those are. Could be maybe a fan. He might be watching the temperatures, and they have a plan. I'm not exactly sure. We'll look into it a little bit more. But what they're doing is, while they're making this lap, they're trying to do everything they possibly can to get ready for qualifying and go through all the motions of what's going to happen on that qualifying lap.
Keep an eye on Austin Dillon. He was the only driver in all of NASCAR that had a top 10 in all 4 plate races last year. Plus, he was 8th in the class and 11th in his dual.
Yeah, I think he had the best average finish on the restrictor plate tracks last year. And I still haven't figured out how they finished third with that car at Talladega. It looked like a roll of duct tape.
It was.
It was a rolling duct tape.
Well, that consistency builds confidence, and when you're consistent on the restrictor plate tracks, you know that you've got what it takes to get the car back in one piece. Well, even though that car was not really in one piece, but you're going to be able to build on that, and I think they will. And then here we got Jamie McMurray, great restrictor plate racer. Not only that, this guy knows how to step up at the big races. If you look at the races that he's won, he's not won a ton of races, but the ones that he has won have been huge races. Brickyard 400, Daytona 500.
Yeah, his teammate, Kyle Larson, running really well. One of the fastest cars here last night. Again, posting a fast time today. That bodes well for that whole operation.
And here's Larson.
I was very impressed with Larson's lap times last night. The fastest Chevy that we saw on the track in the class practice. So curious to see if they can back that up here today as well. You can just see that sealed look on that splitter, that front splitter, the way that air meets the front of that car and flows over the top of the car. That's what these crew chiefs and engineers are looking for.
Boys, look at this. Look who went to the top.
Clint Boyer, top of the chart in his Ford.
He found a car that likes him.
I think this year is going to be quite a year for Clint Boyer. I
agree.
This guy, he went through so much in 2016. Nobody's earned the right to have some good things happen for him more than Clint Boyer.
But the reason I said it is because I remember last year he was terrible somewhere. I said, what's the problem? He said, my car hates me.
Wow, quicker yet. 46.93, 191.7 miles per hour. Clint Boyer's Ford paces the early minutes of practice.